What's up, everyone? This is Ben Parker from CardinalSportsReport.com, covering the Stanford Cardinal for the Rivals Network. Today, I decided to share some thoughts with everybody on the upcoming Super Regional Series between Stanford and Texas. This is baseball, for those that haven't been paying attention. The Stanford Cardinal were able to win their regional round last weekend at home, and they will once again be hosting a Super Regional this weekend against Texas, who was not the highest seed in their regional, but it was able to navigate that and put themselves in a position to face off against Stanford. So I just kind of thought it'd be fun for me to kind of share some thoughts with everybody on the regional that just happened, and just some quick thoughts on what I think Stanford can bring, or what Stanford needs to do to win this weekend and get back to Omaha for their third straight season. So, first of all, if you read my preview on the series for the regional last weekend, you would know that I predicted Stanford to win, but I did think they would lose a game, and they did lose a game. They lost to Texas A&M in their first matchup with the Aggies, and then they had to come back the next day and face off against Cal State Fullerton, beat them by 1 run, and then bounce back to beat Texas A&M the next night, 13-5. And then after that, they were able to then the following day on a Monday come back and win 7-1. So, unlike last year's regional, once I think they won the game against Texas State 4-3 or something, like 1 win. They actually won their games against Texas A&M pretty decisively. And ironically, it was the Titans of Cal State Fullerton that came the closest to ending their season. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So I mean, as far as just kind of key takeaways from the series from the week, first of all, the big story I think from the regional just is the pitching of Quinn Matthews. He was absolutely phenomenal. He pitched on Friday against San Jose State, got the start. They won that game 13-2. They crushed the Spartans. But with the way they struggled on Saturday by losing that game, I think there were some questions about whether or not maybe they should have started him on Friday or should have started him Saturday instead. But the one advantage of him starting on Friday was they were able to use him on Monday if necessary. And I think David Esker kind of knew that they were likely to go to a Monday game. And so, if so, they would like to have Matthews available. If he pitched Saturday, he wouldn't have been available. So that ended up paying off for them. But yeah, I mean, Quinn Matthews was just absolutely electric, absolutely phenomenal. And not just him. I mean, the whole pitching staff at the end of the day came to deliver the goods. Drew Dowd, Ryan Bruno, these guys. So it was really overall a really impressive team effort by the Cardinal to get through the regional as well as they did. And even though they dropped a game, they had that game against Fullerton that was close. They actually dominated Texas A&M the next two nights. And there really wasn't as much drama as I thought there was going to be. So I thought that was pretty impressive of them. As far as like what to look towards for this weekend against the Longhorns, I think just as far as Stanford is concerned, I haven't yet really looked at Texas. I will, and I'll include that in my preview. But just for Stanford, I think going back to Quinn Matthews again, I think one of the big question marks is going to be, does he start on Friday or does he start Saturday? Because it's a situation where he only pitched really one game for this series. And if they're going to have him go long on one of the 2 days, they're really not going to be in a situation where if he pitches Saturday 7 innings, I don't see a scenario where he comes back on a Monday to pitch after pitching on a Saturday. I just don't see that. He'll probably try to talk him into it if it comes to that, but I just don't see that. So I think the real question is going to be, does he start Saturday or does he start Sunday? And it's going to be him and Joey Dixon. They're going to start one of those two games. They're both going to be starting game 1 and 2. But I think the reason why there's some question there about which one's going to start is because the fact that Matthews pitched on Monday. And if he pitches on Saturday to start, he'll be pitching on some shorter rest. So it'll be interesting to see who Esker rolls with. He typically doesn't like to pitch off, which means he doesn't usually like to have the number 2 starter start the first game and vice versa. He doesn't really do a lot of that. He hasn't done that yet this year, but this could be a time where it might actually be for the betterment of the team to make that switch and have Dixon start Saturday and have Matthews start Sunday. So we'll just see. I'm sure that's a conversation that he's having with pitching coach Thomas Eager right now. Um, so that's gonna be interesting to see. As far as like other things to notice, I mean, going back to pitching again, it's gonna be really interesting to see how the bullpen does in this series against the Longhorns. And I think the one thing that has to really worry Stanford a little bit is, if this goes to a Monday night situation, if they split games 1 and 2 with the Longhorns, um, then if Matthews isn't available, it could be a real wild ride, a real adventure to figure out who's going to pitch what innings. I will say this probably one kind of piece of encouragement they did receive this past weekend that you didn't address is Nick Dugan, the freshman pitcher, came in and really was, I mean, just pitched an absolutely phenomenal game. Pitched both games against in the win against Fullerton on Sunday, and the win against A&M on Sunday. He pitched both games of doubleheader. Absolutely was fantastic at both games. So Nick Dugan, if it goes to a game 3 on Monday, I think there's good odds we're going to see him. He might even start. And then there's Matt Scott, who actually pitched better over the weekend than he had been. Gave up a home run, I believe, but pitched looked more settled in, pitched better. And then Braden Montgomery, who is an absolute stud in the outfield and an absolute stud of a hitter, pitched pretty well in the regional as well when he came up. So the fact that the bullpen is starting to settle in is interesting and is a very positive, encouraging sign for them. So I think that's all good for them. But it's just gonna be interesting to kind of see like what do they do on a Monday if it gets to a Monday situation. Of course, though, if you're Stanford, you don't even want to have it get to a Monday in the first place. You want to make sure you win game 1 Saturday, and then you win game 1 Sunday, and then you don't even have to worry about a game 3 on a Monday because they've already got the super locked up at that point. So, but if you're Stanford, you have to be thinking about, okay, what happens if we get to a game 3 on a Monday night? Who do we pitch? How does this go? I would say probably the other kind of takeaway, encouraging part of this past regional we saw was that Stanford won in a variety of ways, right? So this is a team that obviously has an incredibly electric offense. Brady Montgomery, Carter Graham, Tommy Troy, Drew Bowser, Malcolm Moore. I mean, other guys. The list just goes on. I mean, it's just such an electric lineup. I tell people this is the only first baseball team I've seen where they can get down by 4 or 5 runs. It is like, yeah, this is like nothing for them. So these guys have such an electric offense. But I think one kind of concern coming in was, is this a team that has to score 10 runs to win every game? And so for them to win a 6-5 game, a 7-1 game, games like this, I think is encouraging because it shows that they can win in a variety of ways. And if you want to go all the way and win the College World Series or get to Omaha, you got to be able to win in a variety of ways. You can't just win one way. I think there were some concerns coming into the playoffs that, hey, the NCAA tournament, that these guys could only win one way. They had one gear. That, hey, they can win those bashing games of 10 to 12, 12 to 10, 14, 13, 17 to 10 kind of games, but that if you get them into a low scoring fest, they can't win. And they showed this past week in the regional that they can win a low scoring game, which they can win low scoring games. I mean, to win the decisive game 7-1, I mean, who would have thought that with this team? If you told me that they would score, against Fullerton 6 runs, I'd say they very well may have lost because they had a crazy game against Fullerton earlier in the year that was like in the 20s, both teams. So just the fact that they're showing they can win in a variety of ways is really, really encouraging. One player who I do want to give a little bit of a shout out to, who hasn't really gotten a lot of attention this year because he's been on the bench much of the year, is Saborn Campbell. Saborn Campbell's bat really came alive for the Cardinals this past weekend. And he showed that when he has speed and he can run, he showed that we know he has speed, but he showed that when he can get on base and get a hit, his speed can be a game changer, like a real game changer. But his problem has been getting on base, right? Just getting a hit. But if he can just get hits or even just learn how to draw walks and just get on base, The guy is, I mean, one of the fastest players on the team, if not the fastest player on the team. Um, and one of the faster athletes in the school for that matter. So if Saborn Campbell can just get on base, he can be a weapon. And then of course, he hit that really nice triple down the right field line that just barely landed fair. And he said he knew it was triple as soon as he left his bat. So he's got the electric speed. So he's a guy that's gonna be fun to watch this weekend and see if he can build on that. He deserves a shout out for his contributions, and so that's why I thought it was cool that he was brought to the press room on Monday night after they won the regional, because he really was a real difference maker for them. Yeah, I'm trying what else to think about here. I mean, obviously, I think too. I think kind of going back to what I was saying earlier. I think it's really about them winning in a variety of ways. I think it has to take a little pressure off of them that they won the way that they did, because when guys go to the plate, they know they don't have to necessarily hit the home run ball every time. They know they don't have to score double digit runs. That should help the offense breathe easier. But at the same time, I mean, this is an offense that is just so electric, and can go off at any time. So yeah, I mean, and as I said earlier too, it's amazing they won the regional as decisively as they did after dropping that first game. Like I said, I predicted them to win the regional and drop a game, but I really thought this was gonna be a really wild ride where like they were gonna win, but like win by a run, have some crazy come from behind situation. And it wasn't that at all. After they dropped that game against A&M, they just kind of locked in and took care of business. And you got to give them credit for it. And then obviously on the A&M side, um, part of one account for that as well is the fact that A&M's pitching at that point wasn't as good as they wanted, as A&M wanted to be. So, and then one of the things that's important to keep in mind here is while Stanford's got bullpen issues, and almost every team in college baseball has bullpen issues. Once you kind of get past your first couple of aces, your first couple of starters, you start doing patchwork together back and forth. Everybody's doing that, right? So it's not just Stanford that's doing that. A&M is doing that. And in these kind of patchwork kind of games, it does help to have an offense that can be so electric as Stanford's is. Yeah, and I guess kind of one other kind of interesting guy to bring up too from last weekend is Timo Becerra. He came up big, hit a home run, and also wasn't started into the lineup. I think it was against Cal State Fullerton. Yeah, against Fullerton. After Owen Cobb committed a couple of errors in the game, Cobb was benched and replaced with Becerra at shortstop, and Becerra held his own at shortstop against A&M on Sunday night, and then obviously on Monday as well. So. Really, this Stanford baseball team really preaches just everybody chipping in, contributing, doing their part, and being ready and never knowing when their number is going to be called, but to be ready. That's something that David Elsker really preaches to his guys. And it sounds cliche, but when you actually watch each and every game and you kind of see like how they manage things and how they bring in different guys in different situations, that's really, really true. And so, they practice what they preach in that sense. It's not just be ready, but then like the guys that they tell be ready, like never play. It's like no, they really do bring in different guys, different pieces, and those guys contribute. So yeah, those are kind of my thoughts on the baseball weekend. Really a fun weekend at Sunken Diamond. One of the best places to see a college baseball game. And I think as far as upcoming weekend against Texas is concerned, it's I think if they can win with Quinn Matthews starting, they're gonna be in a good place. And then with Joey Dixon, whichever day he starts, I think one of the things to look for with Joey Dixon is how long do they keep him? Because Quinn Matthews, David Esker is pretty comfortable letting him ride, seven, maybe even get into an eighth inning, maybe. Which is why I'm thinking it's possible they might start him on a Sunday, because if he starts on a Sunday, game two, Matthews I'm talking about, then they could really, given that he will have had, almost a whole week off, they could really, really like feel comfortable, I think, riding him into an eighth inning. But with Joey Dixon, he's usually pitching like 5 innings top, maybe six. So in the Joey Dixon game, they got to rely on the bullpen a bit more. They're not as comfortable with him pitching, 6+ innings. So that part is going to be interesting to see how they navigate that. So pitching is key, pitching and defense is key. But with this Stanford team, the offense is so electric that you can't count that. You got to factor that into. So, but those are my thoughts on the series. Really fun weekend at Sunken Diamond, and it's gonna be a real blast uh, to watch this upcoming series against Texas, Super Regional, best of three. Winner goes to the College World Series. And the first game is at 3 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Saturday. So 3 o'clock p.m. at Sunken. That's when it's going to be. And then before I close off this podcast, just me talking here, I do want to give a quick shout out to the Stanford softball team. Really a phenomenal run to Oklahoma City. I have not yet done my recap on that game, but I will. And I'll also see if I can include this video in there as well. But as a part of that, but just really a phenomenal season by Stanford softball. The pitching was phenomenal from Nigel Kennedy and Elena Vaughter, and people like Sydney Steele just stepping up with clutch at bats. They really were a phenomenal team this year to cover, and just had an amazing run. And they took the best team in the nation, Oklahoma, to extra innings. um, I mean, what more can you ask for if you're Stanford, right? I mean, they got to the semis. They had to play against the best team, and they pushed Oklahoma probably tougher than Oklahoma's going to, than Oklahoma's been pushed all year. Oklahoma's an absolute juggernaut. Only lost one game all season. They're the obvious favorites to win that, and just been the best team in the nation all year. So for Stanford to push them to the brink that they did and really make them work for it just says a lot about their team and the culture that Jessica Allister is building, and just really really an impressive season by Stanford softball. So I'll have some more content on them coming out, but I did want to address them as well. So just all around the stick and ball sports at Stanford, baseball, softball, have had great seasons, are having great seasons. And it's going to be a lot of fun once again to see what happens to the Cardinal on Saturday. So that's it. That's all I need to say for this podcast. Once again, I'm Ben Parker from CardinalSportsReport.com. And if you want to connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, just the handle is SlamDunk406. That's it. And there's also on Twitter and Facebook the Stanford Rivals account as well, which you can follow, which the handle for that is just Stanford Rivals, all one word. I'll make sure to leave all that information in the description below, and just go to CardinalSportsReport.com, click on any article, it's all there. Until next time, Ben Parker, and thank you so much for watching, and hope you guys enjoyed me sharing my thoughts here in a video form. This is the first time I've really done this, so have a good night. Peace.